Hello, everybody. Welcome back to World Hoppers. Today, we're going to be chatting about the first 4 episodes of Wheel of Time, and we will be talking spoilers for those episodes. It's not general thoughts. Before we get into it, really quick, Jade from the channel Bedtime Bookworm is a huge Wheel of Time fan. She wishes she could be here. She says hello, and she recently had surgery. That's why she can't be here. She's recovering, but she misses everybody. So go say nice things to Jade. But anyway, we're not going to be talking spoilers for the books until maybe the end. But if we do happen to want to chat spoilers at some point for the books, we'll put this banner up so that you know to skip ahead if you don't want those. But anyway, we'll start by saying how much experience each of us has with the books themselves so that you have an idea of how much knowledge, how big of snobs each of us is going to be, starting with Angela.
All right. Sorry if you hear my cat. He has opinions today. That's why I was on mute. But I read the first 7 books, and I actually picked up Path of Daggers today, and I'm like 5 chapters into that. I am not so I am the person who reads the book before the adaptation, but I have since like I was a teen, I've decided I don't care if adaptations are really different. So I'm not really the type of book person who it's like, oh, this is different from the book. I'm so angry. Unless like they change very pivotal things. Like if you've seen the Golden Compass movies from the 2000s, I hate that movie because of the ending of that movie is not the ending of the book, and it hurts me. And I'm actually probably the person here who, well, I'm not sure about Jess, but I think I like the Wheel of Time pretty like low. I give it like a 3-star rating as a series. I'm just reading it because it's a thing to do with my friend Stephanie, who's, I think that way. She's making me read it, and it's fun reading it with her.
3-star, and you're about to start Path of Daggers.
Yeah, but regardless, that means the show can only go up for me. That's just where I'm coming from, right? That's the whole point of this question. It's like, what are we bringing into this? My baggage is that I don't like a lot of what Jordan's done with it, but I like his ideas. So having those ideas with different creators is exciting to me.
So Angela thinks she knows better than Robert Jordan.
I mean, about like relationships with one's spouse, potentially. You
mean not everyone just instantly falls in love and/or is prophesized to love each other? Hi everyone, I'm Alex. I've read all the books. I finished them a couple months ago actually, and I am very high on Wheel of Time for the most part, but as I tell everybody, it's got some of the highest highs in fantasy and some of the lowest lows, because it is a roller coaster of up and down of completely dull, unimportant crap, and then really, really exciting stuff, with a giant speed bump from books 8 to 10, in which nothing happens. But yeah, so I've read all the books. I will do my best to not just talk about further things in the books, because the show I think is just adapting books 1 and 2 for the most part, because they're definitely mixing in things from later books earlier to get storylines going. But yeah, that's me.
Oh my gosh, the whole series. I have only read the first 3 books.
Tell us about your Oxycontin book.
Oh my god. So don't read Wheel of Time, read Empire of Pain. Just kidding. But I recently made a video asking people's opinion on if I should continue the Wheel of Time, and Elle said no, so she can spoil it for me. But
Elle hasn't even read it.
I have been convinced by the masses that I'm at least going to read the 4th book. But as of now, I just have knowledge of the first 3, and I like them pretty well. I have some people that I'm like about, and then I love some people. So
book 4 is good. I'm just throwing that out there.
Book 4 is the best of the first 4.
I hear, I've been encouraged. So
if you already like it enough to read it,
and I don't like book 4. Everyone told me that.
Lord.
Listen.
I'm with Angela.
See, this is what's funny about Wheel of Time though. So she didn't like The Shadow Rising, which is like arguably universally praised as one of the best books in the series, but she got to A Crown of Swords and like that, which most people consider the start of the slog.
The Crown of Swords has so many important character arc moments.
Oh,
I
know, it's
important.
Great. I agree that it's good. There's also people that think Lord of Chaos is the slog, and I'm just like, what books are you reading?
Lord of Chaos is sloggy.
We're saying like we're going to talk about the show, and now we're just arguing about the books.
It has something for everyone. But yeah, Crown of Swords is my favorite. Come at me, Wheel of Time fans. I don't make sense.
All I was gonna say for Jess, if you're already mostly liking it and you get through book 4 and that changes to disliking it, just stop. If you like it still, keep going, but that's about where it goes like yes, 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 and then it's just like and then it kind of like falls back up and then gets good.
Dear.
Enjoy, Stephanie and Angela.
Yeah. I'm in better reading Wheel of Time with Angela, so we just finished book 7, and I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as Angela, which it's usually the opposite. Usually I love it, and Angela's like, it was all right. So, but I really like it so far, and I agree with Alex. If you like book 4, continue, but if you don't, you probably won't like the rest of it as much.
I think that segues into us pretty well because I have read the first 4, and book 4 is the one that I was like, I don't want to read this anymore. So, but Sean has read all of it.
So I'm the perfect viewer, and I'll tell you why. I've read all of them, but I read them too long ago, like a decade ago or more. I was a young man. I have nostalgia for it. So
When was the last book published?
When was
Wasn't that 2013-ish?
I mean, there would have been Sanderson writing it though, so like Eye of the World was like 92 or something.
It was 90.
Yes. So I watched the show and my brain is tickled and I think something like that happened. So it must be great. And that's why I'm the best person to watch a show, because there's the nostalgia factor, but I don't really remember it well enough to be like, hey, wait a second. That didn't happen. So it's great.
Meanwhile, I read the first 4, and I'm kind of like Angela, where I think that I'm excited to see what they do, because conceptually I like a lot of Wheel of Time. I think it's really interesting. And I think I don't know if you can argue that Robert Jordan clearly hadn't fleshed out this world. It's a huge world. So I'm excited to see it, and I'm excited to see these characters. How he goes about telling the story and how he goes about depicting the characters isn't my favorite, but I loved Perrin in the books. So anyway, speaking of Perrin, shall we start chatting about episode 1? What are everybody's thoughts on the first one, the first episode? We have liked every episode more than the last. Yeah. So episode 1 was our least favorite. Our biggest complaints were primarily coming from the look of the magic. We just didn't like how it looked. And the Trollocs, I think, look like how they're described in the books. But the movement, it was as soon as they started to move that we both thought, that doesn't look amazing. But I liked the introduction of the characters. I do think that a couple of opening scenes, I was like, like pushing Egwene in the water or chasing down the one.
It was such a waste of time.
Why?
I had to chuckle when they were like talking about the river, and she finally like, what is it they told her?
It was so on the nose.
Yeah, but I'm like, she got to a part where it's not a rapids anymore. It's not like the current's not strong. There's barely any movement. Of course, it's like she's chilling out.
And that's why she calmed herself.
Yeah,
because the river stopped.
I didn't love the opening, even when Moraine is watching them with the one.
It made no sense.
Channeler, and I was just like, this feels kind of campy.
It was just to like throw information. They're like, oh no, that can't be him.
It was an exposition dump, but it was weird because they immediately break their own logic, because it's like the Reds are hunting down male channelers, and then Moraine is like, but it could be a man or a woman. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't make any sense.
It's so funny. I'm curious. I actually would love to get all of because I've tried to avoid hearing other people's thoughts, except for commenters on our videos, because, we see that. But it's really funny how some fans are like, that doesn't make any sense. Because we were saying we're not upset about it, but we kind of feel like it goes against the magic. And then other people are like, if you've read the books, it's possible. And I'm like, I mean, it seems like even the fans can't decide how they feel about the possibility of it being a man or a woman for the dragon.
I mean, Go ahead.
I mean, I think just as a viewer of something for entertainment, I kind of wish I didn't know the answer. Because I think every option that they portrayed as potential is so much more interesting than what I know the answer is.
Yeah. I mean, for the show, it definitely makes sense. Like, you have 4 main characters, essentially. So, like, the fact that you're making it, well, it could be any of them. It's just an easy explanation.
Yeah, they just expand what the book did, right? Like, I mean, it's really obvious in Eye of the World what's happening, but they pretend in the book that there's 3 options. You know, what's going to happen?
Even my wife by episode 4 was like, hey, can I just say the name of one of the characters? She was just like, it's Rand, right? She was like, Matt's got the dagger and Perrin's got like wolves and Egwene can like hear the wind. So like, he's got to be it, right? And I was just like, oh.
I will say that, you know, Sean was saying he's the perfect viewer who's read the book. I'm the perfect viewer of all campy fantasy stuff. I like love that stuff. I grew up on Xena Warrior Princess. It's like, it just has better
feels
special
like that
effects.
Sometimes.
So I don't know. I really liked the beginning, except for I don't like when trailers show things that aren't in the episode.
Yeah.
It bothers me to no end. Like, only show me things that are in it. Because then I kept being like, wait, but when's the scene with Egwene coming out of the water
like
with the
paint and stuff
colors?
on her. Yeah. It's probably going to be in like episode 6 or 7 or something.
Well, I heard that this episode he wanted to make like 2 hours, but Amazon wouldn't let him. So I'm sure there's just like an extended version of this episode. I think
it would have benefited episode 1 because episode 1 does feel rather fast and they cover a lot of ground. And for a finale, especially for this like hour and a half, 2 hours, I think would have been great to get it going, especially since they're only doing 8 episodes. If they had like a nice long intro, but I think it's like new show. They don't want to lose viewers. And if you start with a 2-hour episode, people might tune out, but they drop 3 episodes at a time. So I don't know.
Yeah. But I'm also really bad at noticing if special effects are bad. Like, I think the magic looks cool, but I'm alone, and Alex knows I thought the posters looked cool, and everyone thought the posters looked dumb. So I'm just
that looked like some bad Photoshop.
No.
I just want to say Cloaks too. Sometimes they look good, but there's like one shot, I swear, where there's a guy at one Trolloc with like a pig nose, and I was like, dude, like why? Like, I get some of them have boar-shaped faces, but that guy looks like he just like put on like a little pig mask. And come on, Amazon. Like,
I think it makes you appreciate the Lord of the Rings trilogy because the orcs look so great.
Still look great.
That practical effect of the orcs and then just overlaying the CGI, but like in the background, because you got like 20 guys in suits, and then you just put good lighting on them, and then everything else is just like projected behind them and looks great. And somehow CGI's gotten better and more advanced, and everything looks worse.
Exactly what
worse.
you've been saying. Yeah.
They look. Yeah, I think it's movement, but also I just rewatched the first episode, and there was a moment where one was just like straight on, and I was like, I don't know, like they just look like they're not real, like they're not in the world, you know, they look CGI'd. And I think I was talking to Elle about this, like orcs, you know, because those are all people in suits and all the makeup and all of this. Like, did they not? I don't know how they budgeted in this one, but I feel like some people had makeup and other ones were CGI'd, and it was like a mixture.
I think they just have to throw a helmet on some of those guys. Like, you know, like I think their bodies look decent, but then like they have like these, like when they zoom in, they have like very like, I don't know, that's a dude with makeup. You know, that's what it looks like to me. Like, you just put like a helmet on, you're set. You got some horns. I'm convinced you're good. But, you know, that's more helmets. That's what I want.
I also don't know how I feel about the Aes Sedai magic. Like, at one point, I think it looks cool with Moraine, like all her weaving or whatever. But then sometimes it's like a lot of body movements. And I'm like, okay. Do we need all
she gets a little
that?
There's a little much, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I still liked, especially in the first one, like her coordination with Lan. I was like, oh my God, he's over here and he's just moving perfectly like the perfect man he is.
Do you have a favorite character, Jess?
Well, it's Lan. Moraine and Lan. From the books, I already like, you know, I was intrigued by them from their entrance, which I didn't love their entrance to the two rivers in the show. It just felt so like,
I swear, I was like,
it was weird.
As soon as he walked in, I was like, "Why are you wearing a hood, trying to look like
and
a
he's
fade?"
just
like,
well, and the way they don't they even show his feet? And I'm like,
Yeah.
some spurs, and I'm watching Tombstone. Are they about to like have a duel?
And then it comes up,
all
and
the
he's
music
like,
cuts off, and he's just
and
like,
then Nynaeve.
Yes,
He
he was an old cowboy coming into the saloon. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, I didn't like their entrance either. But I mean, with the magic, going back to that, I feel bad because right now it kind of feels like we're just hating, and I think a lot of us are. Where I don't want to. We'll get to the later episodes.
I have very minimal complaints.
Yeah. So with the magic, I was confused because the first Trolloc, first off, Lan tells Moraine a bunch of Trollocs are coming, and then they wait until like half the village is slaughtered to finally show up.
The entire place is on fire and everyone's dead, and then she's like takes her jacket off and walks out, and it's like, but were y'all just watching the whole time?
Like, oh,
they're toweling off after the bath.
Yeah.
You know, like
and then,
geez.
So when she shows up, the very first Trolloc is the one that Egwene and Nynaeve, where it like disintegrates kind of.
Yeah.
And then after that,
like rips it in half with wind.
And then I'm like, why isn't she doing that to the rest of them? Like now it's like chucking rocks, and I'm like,
first she like threw a bunch of fire first, and like was spitting out fireballs, and then more of them came, and then she just like collapsed a bunch of buildings. Like,
I hope they had insurance too.
Yeah,
I was like, they're never getting that back.
It's fine. Literally, no one in the
collapsed.
village was upset at all after it.
I'm so confused too, and maybe somebody can clarify because I'm like, I don't understand. She like legit got stabbed with that knife, and then she's just like, follow me, Edmund's Field 5 or 4, whatever, in that moment. And I'm just like, you should be bleeding out. What is happening?
And the thing is, I think we both were like, oh, she must have healed herself. And then later they're like, they can't heal themselves. Yeah. And I was like,
yeah, I was like,
she took that. I mean, it was just like, I mean, it wasn't like
she like
a graze,
falls back, and then Lan has to rip it out of her. Like, I guess she's fine now. I don't know. Anyway.
She was, but then it like episode 2 is like, actually she's like not good at all.
It's just how tough she is.
In that moment, she's just like, all right, let's keep going. It's like, damn, okay.
I don't know how quickly they left without like any explanation. Like this is kind of spoilery from the book if you want to put up the banner.
The falling action was way too quick.
But you know, because Rand comes back with Tam and he's like in that fever and saying all those things, and maybe they're gonna do that later in the show or something, but I'm like, those are kind of important things that he like says. I don't know. It just was like, we've got to leave now. And all of these people who have all these, like Perrin has his wife, Matt has his sisters. Like, well, she's gone now. But like all these, they just are like, have a few minutes.
There's some weird sounds happening. What's
not
happening?
on my end. Maybe the dark one's coming. He's upset with us.
Probably. But they just left too quickly. They didn't do. I felt like the first episode was both slow and too fast. It was weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. That was
strange.
I thought it was weird they left out about his dad too, because that was a really important scene in the book. But I also didn't have super high, I don't want to say expectations, but I'm kind of like Angela. Like, I was just happy with the adaptation, and I'm more critical when it's something I'm really nostalgic with, like Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. But I also agree with the magic system. I like the choreographed scene with Moraine and Lan. I thought that was really cool. But then the later you get in, the more body movements they have, and it just looks so. I don't know.
Like she's doing yoga.
How are you?
It was like they were doing like a
workout.
It was like a live action anime where like you're watching Naruto or something, and they're doing like tons of hand motions.
Anime music. It was so cool. I loved that music in that scene.
I wish the weaves looked a little bit more diverse, rather simply like just the white and the black, like literal like waves. I wish it was like a little bit more than that. And I don't know. Some of that up front was a little weird, but I mean, I love the battle. I feel like there should have been more before and after that though, and spent more time with like I'm not upset that they changed Matt's parents to like make them have like a crappy relationship in the show. I know a lot of book readers were like, oh, they did his dad wrong. And I was just like, I don't care. It doesn't really matter to me. But it made Matt interesting. And I think he's definitely like because you give him that relationship with his sisters that was definitely expanded on for the show. And you make him like actually feel like a person. I feel like by far of all the characters, he got the best, I guess, like lines and scenes, and everyone else kind of got the short end of the stick compared to him. And it's sad because we already know that Barney is recast for season 2, so it's going to be weird to like have him be everyone's favorite seemingly, like actor wise, and then he's not going to be there. So it's kind of strange. But I do wish, like, to Jess's point of the end of that episode, like right after the battle, I feel like they should have spent like 20 minutes like sitting down and talking about what was happening, rather than literally being like, there's Trollocs on the hill. Like, we got to go now. And everyone's just like, all right, like, we're good. Let's go. And everyone's like, bye. Like,
especially because Rand technically missed the battle because he was just at his house with his dad.
Yeah.
So
and that went so quick. It felt longer in the book when I was reading it. And just because later he's all like, well, why should we follow you? So it's like, well, why are you asking this now? I don't know. It's just weird. Like, there was no like, oh, why should there was a quick, and then it was like, all right, we got to ride out. End of episode.
Also, Perrin had just killed his wife.
I've been saying that this whole show. I was like, is anyone going to say something about this?
No, they don't know he killed his wife. They all think his wife was killed a different way.
But
yeah, every time someone said, he's like,
every episode he's just sitting there, and I'm like, you just killed your wife 2 hours ago, right?
He knows that. He's very traumatized.
I think he's so empty. It's like you could just pull him along wherever.
How do you feel about
like it would make more sense? I don't know if he just sat there. You know what I mean? Like it was sad. Like,
but they didn't give anybody time.
There was one line when Matt was just like said something. I think it might have been in like episode 2, just being like, we lost her or whatever, I'm sorry. And that was it. And I was like, no one else is concerned about this man's wife that like
I know Egwene also talked to him too. I remember a couple moments when this happened for some reason. Yeah.
Did he say anything about it?
I think they know.
He never says anything though.
I feel like he just sits there.
A reference to episode 4, and actually a scene that we didn't like. But when the Tinker lady is like, have you ever used violence that you found made your life worse, like with a sword or an axe, perhaps? And then he's like, and then Egwene's like, oh, poor, it's okay, Perrin. And in that moment, I'm like, Egwene must know, right? Because Egwene's like comforting him. And then they're like, was your life worse after that axe? And, I'm like, we get it. He murdered his wife, and now he's not going to like an axe.
Perrin
just laugh when it shows him with his hammer later with the wagon wheel. And Sean's like so annoyed because he'll bash people's heads in with a hammer, but the axe, no. And Sean's like, both of them can be used as tools. He doesn't understand why he's okay with one. And I'm like, but the hammers help you repair wagon wheels, apparently, is the difference.
Like, I mean, that's like a big thing from the books, though. Like, I think they're doing a lot of what they can't do with inner monologues in the books by using some lazy visual storytelling, true. Yeah. But you only have 8 episodes. And a big part of Perrin's thing is he has a lot of internal trauma and grief and fear of himself. And how do you put that on screen? Like, I think this was before we were talking here, but it's really hard to portray very quiet spoken people on screen. And like,
but my specific gripe, this I guess is spoilers for the book, but dude, get rid of all utensils then. If you're afraid of hurting someone, why is it like the axe is bad? But this hammer is fine. I can hit people with my hammer. And you're like, dude, what? Anyways, that's my gripe.
At least that's really true to the books. I mean, I think some things that like Alex brought up that were really good is like Matt is like low key my least favorite character. I know there's many books to go, things will happen, whatever.
I didn't like Matt until book 4.
Matt was so annoying.
I still don't.
I just thought he was annoying.
Yes.
Yeah, but like
he was
I don't know which episode. I think it was episode 2. I literally died laughing because of something he said, probably about Moraine and shooting fireballs or something. I was just like, that's so funny. Whereas whenever he's funny in the books, I'm just like,
I just want to punch him.
I think I personally, because he had read all the books and then he would tell me like Matt's really cool, and when I started reading it,
By
I was
the
like,
end.
yes,
Yeah.
and I was
By
like,
the end.
no, he's not. He's so stupid. And then I would show him parts of the book. He's like, I don't remember him being that annoying. I'm like, that's because you remember him once he got cool. So in my opinion, I think that they made him kind of how cool he gets to be and how likable he gets to be. They just kind of had to start there.
Well,
Especially
I think coolness and likability are different things. I think they made him way more likable.
yeah.
Like he's a likable character.
Yeah.
I don't know if he ever gets to the point of where I'm like, I really like Matt. It's just he gets like
Cooler.
his abilities and like
I think
his
the
character
thing,
arc is cool, but I don't know if I'm ever like, Matt's a great guy.
giving him his
you know.
sisters to care about gave him a reason to take something from Shadar Logoth, because in the
Yes.
books it's basically that he's just ridiculous.
He
Because
just
he's like,
well, 'cause in the book he like
treasure.
because in the book you know he's gambling and everything, but they skip the whole reason that he actually takes the dagger from the books, which is he's literally like brought there by someone in Shadow Logoth and like coerced into taking it. Like that whole like scene was just not in the show.
I mean, he was coerced in the book, but he was still being like the equivalent of Abu in Aladdin, where he's just like,
Oh,
"Oh,
he
shiny."
definitely
I
wanted
see
it. Yeah.
that. That is what I
For
always
sure.
describe him
He
as.
definitely wanted it, but like that whole scene shows of like don't take anything, because I feel like they kind of glossed over, and maybe I just don't remember them saying it in the show. I feel like they kind of glossed over the repercussions of taking things out of there, because
Yeah.
I think
like
the
did they
show
or
seemed
Land
to
just
imply
says
that
don't
Land
take
didn't
it.
really know how bad this place was in
Yeah.
comparison to Moraine. So like he did say don't touch anything, but he didn't know, I think, what would happen.
because I feel
Yeah.
like in the book it was explained a little bit more of like you can't take anything, this place is cursed, like it's evil, don't touch anything, definitely don't take anything out of here. And then he was just like, hey Rand, I stole a dagger.
Well, yeah.
Like,
He's
what?
like, "Oh, I didn't take it. Someone gave it to me."
Yeah.
Loophole.
Yeah.
God, I hate Matt in the books. Matt's so good in the shows. But,
But
yeah.
in the show, do you? Because I agree with Matt. Rand, I feel like is on brand.
Yeah.
I'm
Because
on-
he's lame and has
Rand-
nothing to
even
do.
though I think the actor is very attractive, and I hate it because
I mean, someone
Rand.
compared it Rand to Anakin Skywalker, and I get it, and I see it, and I think that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't
I saw-
unsee it.
I saw that. But I don't hate Perrin in the books. I don't, but a lot of people are like, Perrin's my fave. I like him, but sometimes he gets on my nerves. I don't know if I'm sold on the actor, and maybe just because he hasn't done a lot of speaking. He's just done a lot of, and I'm like, oh, can you do something?
They're
Can you
not
do
giving him a lot on screen to do.
Yeah, he's just like,
I think that's why the heavy-handedness is bothering me, because at some point I'm like, can you let him act? Like, can you? He is. I mean, I feel like he's doing all they're letting him do, which is sulk,
mhm.
and he's sulking well. But it's
But
like,
that's
hey, let's have him murder his wife, and then after that, let's show a really graphic dream of the wolves.
Oh, where the wolf is eating her?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, and then let's have the Tinker talk about the axe, and I'm like, okay, how about we have a little bit more with him, and like. Even with the wolves, he's just like looking at them. They come and lick him, and then I'm like,
He just looks
"Can
and
you
he says
say
one word.
something?" Yeah,
He's like, no. I don't. And then I feel like the casting for Nynaeve is great because I don't like her like I don't like her in the book. Like she's getting
Yes.
all my, but I will say, I guess this is kind of spoiler for the book. When I read The Eye of the World, I was not really picked, maybe because Roberto just can't write romance well in the beginning. But I was not picking up any kind of vibe.
He cannot
between-
do that ever.
I was like, I was so confused when I got to a part. I was like, did I miss something? I felt nothing.
That
in
is
the
how
book between-
everyone feels.
Okay,
There is
I
nothing
went
between
back.
her and Lan until all of a sudden they love each other. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, when? Huh?
I
And then
literally was
I-
like, I missed something. I
book
went back
readers
to
will
the
be like, if
audio.
you really pay attention, there's hints and nods in the subtext. And I'm just like, no, there wasn't.
No,
I'll tell you what it
the
is.
show
People are
has
just
obviously
in love.
started that earlier, which I'm like, maybe
The show is
that
doing
why
a
they
much
had-
better job of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
you know
think-
they're having tension and interaction,
Mhm.
but in the book,
In
No.
the book, the reason he loves her is because she tracked him. That's it.
Yep.
He's like, really? And then he's in love. That's the only thing that happens. Is
like,
he's
do
like,
not dismiss my man to that. Like, come on.
So I mean, book to show, like they definitely made it seem like there might have been like a Moraine Land thing going on, but
Yeah.
it's not. there clearly are in other episodes with other Aes Sedai, as we see. But I think the show's doing a great job of making Nynaeve, I think, a little bit more interesting, because in the first book or two, she's really just like, I'm the wisdom. You darn kids need to listen to me. Like, don't trust the Aes Sedai.
Yes.
She does a little bit of that, but she's much more like her own person in the show. And her and Lan having multiple scenes together, having the obvious sexual tension, and then like him protecting her in that fight. It's like, okay, like they're actually just going to build on it early. It's going to murder Jess when they start kissing on screen and she's not
I'm going to yank
Nynaeve.
Whoops, by her braid.
They made her so much more badass with that.
She's
braid.
a lot more violent. Like she's shanking people with knives. Like,
I saw Ella tweet, and it said Nynaeve needs to drop the hair care routine because she was dragged by her hair in episode 1 until episode 3, and she still got all her braids. And someone said she's been tugging her braid all her life. One Trolloc ain't gonna do anything about it.
That's great.
She hasn't tugged her braid yet, I don't think.
She hasn't.
But I'm happy with that because I think they've still put emphasis that her braid is very important to her. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the important part. Like,
yes.
Because I think they realize, like we all do when we read the book, that no one just tugs on their hair.
Or flattens their skirts.
You do flatten skirts and you twist hair and you twirl hair.
Or who's just always like, I'm tugging on my braid.
If you are inexperienced with Robert Jordan's writing, he likes to repeat things a lot, including how the magic works and who can use either side of it.
Yeah, thank you.
I do like, and this happens with Nynaeve and all the other characters, is like, I don't have to hear their inner thoughts because I'm not reading a book, I'm watching it. So she could be just as obnoxious. Like, it looks like the actor has, chip on her shoulder. That's Nynaeve, like, we're getting a lot of stubborn, I'm not going to trust Aes Sedai energy. That's very Nynaeve. But I don't have to listen to her say stupid things in her brain because she does that a lot. And I just...
Well, they gave her the background of, like, her mom being rejected by the Aes Sedai for basically being, like, poor or whatever, which I don't believe was a thing. But...
Yeah. Was it her mom or, like, a friend, somebody who helped raise?
Right? I thought it was the wisdom that she was with. I don't think it was her mom.
But it was a maternal like figure, I think.
But they gave her that scene, in the show with Moraine to really show, like, this is why I don't like you.
I have seen some people say they don't like that because they feel like it goes against what the Aes Sedai represent, which is that the Aes Sedai come from everywhere, and they're making it almost like we only accept the privileged. But I don't know if I had too many feelings about that. But I mean,
maybe early, I don't know. Without spoiling anything, like there's scenes later in the books where they definitely are selective in who they want in their ranks. I'll just say that.
I don't love the Aes Sedai based off the books, that's for sure.
They're not likable people.
No.
They're pretty conniving and evil at times. Like, and they usually take like 5-year-olds and brainwash them to be Aes Sedai. Like, that's kind of their thing.
Yeah, it's not a great system, and they're like. And I guess also the show's also removing a lot of miscommunication and a lot of weird narrative devices that Jordan loves to use, which just makes me happier. Right, Luna?
I will say that even though in the books we only got like an Eye of the World, I really liked Rand's dad. Is it Tam? And in the show, it threw me because he is the worst in Game of Thrones.
Bruce Bolton.
So I was trying to like separate the actor because oh my god, I hate Bruce Bolton, and I'm like, no, I liked him, but that was throwing me for a loop. But I feel like everybody else.
Sean,
I like the casting overall.
Sean's very frustrated that no one's mentioned Rand's hair color.
Oh yeah, I feel like everyone's just like, yeah, that's fine.
Because the reason that's a problem if you've read the books is because the Two Rivers is supposed to be this like isolated place where everyone kind of looks the same, and like he's weird and stands out because he's got red hair and fair skin, and like he doesn't look like anybody else. That the show threw that out the window because they are diverse as hell in the Two Rivers.
So I have to bring this up just because I think it's funny. So it is a very diverse community.
Mm-hmm.
But two characters have seen, either Rand and Matt, and in the other instance, Perrin and Egwene, and they've said, "Oh, you must be from the Misty Mountains." How?
Right. Yeah.
How do
Makes
you
no
know
sense.
that?
I did
Like the only thing I could think of is, are they just dumber? Like, are they just like, oh, these naive idiots? They must be from the Misty
It's
Mountains.
like they wanted it both ways because they,
Yeah.
I mean, you know why they made the cast diverse for a TV show. Like they're not just going to cast a bunch of like white people that look the same and then just have
Yeah.
like a redheaded guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, it makes sense for like a TV purpose, but like trying to then explain it in world of like, oh, you clearly are from this place. It's like, how would you ever know? Because
feel like
there
they
is like
could've-
every race.
They could have
mixed
used
there.
accents or something, because like that's how we tell around here. Is like you can tell someone's from the South by how they talk. At least in the United States, I'm talking continental United States. Like, so you could have had accents. And also, this brings me to another point. This is a US based fantasy series, and why does everyone have a British accent all the time? Like, why is this the
Because it's a
monopoly
fantasy
on
show.
fantasy?
British
This
people
is-
have a monopoly on fantasy.
Every time.
I thought they could have maybe given the people from the Two Rivers different clothing or something.
Can we
That's
please
like a
talk about the
signature
kind of
clothing?
signal
The
that
clothing.
The clothing is
It's
Dude.
part Zara, part H&M,
Rand is
part
fresh.
Ren Fair.
Okay.
I'm
Rand
really
is fresh
confused.
all the time. He's got
I
a new
have-
But
coat
how are
for
the
every
neck ones?
scene.
Rand has a sweater from
Oh, yeah.
what is it? Colored United Colors of
one.
Baton. I'm convinced. I'm very confused.
I
Well, the-
love though when people you know what? Spoilers for the books and spoilers for like a lot of the books, except for it's not really that big of a spoiler, doesn't affect the story. Actually,
It
some
happens
of
in
you
book 4, Jess, so minor spoiler for you.
Well,
Oh my god! Don't tell me.
I mean, yeah, I
does
just
Rand
realized
get a
that
special coat like Kel?
it's not. So the thing I want to bring up is something that is a spoiler beyond where some people have read. It's just I know.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I
Don't
feel
do
like
it. Don't do it.
But let's
Don't
just
do it
let's
now.
just say
Don't
that
do it.
stop. Some people have this idea that those clothes would have just been around because of.
Oh, is this the whole?
Right.
I think you've already said it. People have already. You can go ahead.
And I'm like, that's not how that would have worked. It's not like I'd be walking around and be like, I found a interesting pair of, I guess this is called denim. And like they have that, but then they also have like Renaissance outfits.
it doesn't
too.
make
Like,
sense.
they're
It
not
needs to be
just
one or
laying
the other.
around- They're not laying around in treasure chests like in an RPG. We don't
That'd be
just
amazing.
have random clothing like this. And I don't mind. I really don't mind the clothing looking a little more modern. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm just confused why some of it looks a little more modern and then some of it looks more medieval-esque.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite make sense, but I don't mind it.
Can I feel like we're circling around Rand, so I want to talk about Rand. I love the guy who's playing Rand because he is sufficiently annoying. Like he's already super paranoid. Love to see my Rand super paranoid. And I think he's doing a good job. I think like as
He's
far
spot
as
on.
Rand being annoying and like looking over his shoulder and not trusting anybody,
Yeah.
we're already planting those seeds real
And
early.
childish.
And
I
like
think
it.
all the cast is doing a great job, except for they haven't given Perrin enough to do to be his character yet.
Yeah.
But like the casting and like the acting, I think is the best part of it, arguably.
Yeah.
With some of like the CGI being questionable and like some of the pacing, I think, especially of like episode 1 and maybe some of 2. But as soon as we're like the end of episode 2 and then episodes 3 and 4, I feel like just are way better.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I have something very specific to episode 2, and I'd love to hear your thoughts because
Is
I
it
was
about
like,
the sense?
no, it's the boat that
Oh,
they
yeah.
wanted to use to get across. I'm like, this was so easily avoidable when Moraine's like, you can't go back to your son, and he's like swimming after the boat that she made the whirlpool for.
This makes a whirlpool. He's like, no, I must get to my son.
And I'm like, okay,
There's a
hold on
whirlpool in the
second.
water.
If you had the magical powers to make this whirlpool, I believe you could have used your own magic to like get everybody on the boat and then use your magic to like get the boat across. Just take the boat from the guy. I don't understand. Be like kind of like a wink to land. Like, I probably can't use my magic in this way, but like Lan, you can. And tell the guy like, hey, look, see all those pitchforks and things? Those are Trollocs coming. So you might want to leave. And if he's like, I'm not leaving, be like, okay, well, I warned you. And then he can, if he so chooses, he can stay. But at least you told him instead of making him cross the river and then telling him like, you're never going to see your son again. In fact, he's probably going to die because no one's there to warn him. I'm like, that was so easily avoidable. And it kind of bothered me because I think they were trying to show how Moraine is going to do whatever it takes.
She's hardcore.
And I'm like, that was unnecessary. It just seemed like poor planning on Moraine's part.
I didn't like it either.
I thought it was hilarious. Simply because they get to the other side of the river, and he's like, "No, I have to go back." She's like, "I can't let you do that." He's like, "No, but I have to." She's just like, and then it's just like, "You can get in there if you want. I don't care." Just like sinks with the boat, and they're just like, "What did you do?" She's like, "I didn't kill him. He killed himself." I'm like, "God, okay."
I mean, he did. She said, "Don't go."
She's like, "I didn't break the rules. He chose to go down with the ship."
I mean, he saw all the Trollocs on the other side, and he still was like, "I need to go back." So
I do kind of like the Moraine expositions on how Moraine is how we're learning about the prejudice against Aes Sedai in the world. Like when she's talking to Egwene, because in the book it's just like existing, and everyone's just like, you just hear 10 times Aes Sedai can only tell the truth, but it's always twisted. You hear that like every other paragraph in the book. But here she just, talks to Egwene, which we haven't really talked about Egwene, and I love Egwene. She's really cool. And she's one of my favorite characters in the book.
To be fair.
She hasn't done much, but that's because this isn't the book she does much.
She's very nice.
Yeah.
She deserves more than Rand.
Ugh.
I think it's weird. Just, I guess it would be episode 1. Like, she decides real quick that she's just like gonna be the next Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like no.
I mean, that's in book 1 really early. It's just in the book, Wisdoms are allowed to marry.
I know, but it was like real quick. Like, Rand, I can't talk to you anymore. Like, I'm going to be the Wisdom. Like, this relationship's done. And he's just like.
But wasn't in the book? It was like she may. It wasn't like a set. Like you were definitely. Yeah. I felt like it was more of like I'm just kind of learning things with Nynaeve if that comes up, or maybe I go to another town. In the show, they made it like this is a definite thing. I'm going into an initiate program.
And she's going to become a nun.
You have cooties now. I can't talk to you.
I at least liked, so in the book and the movie, there's this whole like suddenly Egwene treats Rand differently once she has her braid, because that happens in both. But in the book, it's super childish. Like, I'm an adult now. I'm not talking to you. You're still a boy.
That's because Robert Jordan doesn't know how to write male and female interactions like a normal human would.
And here it's like, I still care for you, but I don't think I want the same future you want. And now we're both. It's like the conversation after high school before you go to college with your sweetheart. It felt like that.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, in the books, they're like 15 or 16. They're not in their mid-20s or whatever they are in the show.
They start at like 19, I thought, in the books.
Yeah, that's something.
Are they 19?
They don't feel like they're 19.
They're definitely written like they're like 14.
They are written. So the only reason I know, because otherwise I would not know the age of the characters this well, is that Jade in her Intro to Wheel of Time video says that she thinks it's an appropriate series for YA readers, and you can kind of consider it YA because there's nothing exceptionally explicit. And she said the age of the characters, and so many people got so mad at her, and they're like, how can you even say you're a fan? That's not how old the characters are. And they're like mentioning that some of the characters I think are even early 20s or something. And then I saw a comment today saying they aged them up 2 years. So that, Perrin is married and all these things. And I'm like, so are we talking like 23, 24? Because Rand definitely acts like a 17-year-old being told.
I thought they were 20 in the show because they made that whole like 20 years ago.
Yeah, she's 25 and she's 25 in the books too.
Yeah, but like on the show when Moraine and Lan are like up there and they do that clunky whole like, 20 years ago, the dragon was reborn. So I was like,
so they're all 20 except Nynaeve. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they were younger in the book, but I guess not.
I thought they were.
They just feel younger.
Yeah.
I thought they were like 15. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing.
And these are two Rivers folks who are all tough and they mature really quickly, but they act like children of our modern times. And
there's so many characters in the Wheel of Time that act like that.
And I thought Nynaeve was 20 in the books, but I guess not.
Like something we know that they're not going to do in the show is the terrible gender dynamics of like all men think all women are just crazy and all women just think all men are stupid. Like that's because that's in all of the books. It never changes.
Oh, it's so
and they're
exhausting.
definitely not going to do that in the show.
It's so exhausting.
But can we talk about the sets though? A couple of them bothered me.
What about Emmonsfield? Did Emmonsfield look good?
She wants to talk about the ones she doesn't like.
Okay. In
we're only in episode 2.
The first episode, when they get to the two rivers, at some points, like especially when it was like outside, so you can tell more of it was just like nature. It looked fine, but there was like one point looking over like the town where it kind of looked like an abandoned like Western town. Maybe that was just me, but the worst one to me was the Shadow
Logo.
looked. Everything just looked so tight. Like it looked short and tight, and it just looked like a painted set. It didn't look like an old city to me.
It didn't look like Gandalf running through Minas Tirith. It was like you could tell.
I'm so blessed that my brain doesn't do what your brains do, because I thought it looked so cool.
If you
Rand is compact for the city.
Yeah, Rand is
looks like a city I've never seen before, that I could have never imagined. It's in a fantasy world. Of course, it didn't look like anything I could relate to and didn't make sense.
I think some of the ones, like when they pan out when they're running away, looks fine, but like you can clearly see, like we mentioned it before we started, Rand and Nynaeve standing in like the really skinny like tower that looked like it was 8 feet tall, and like it definitely looked like it was just like that was there and nothing else was real.
Like
and
what
then, like,
would
when they have like the cathedral? Say again? What
I said, what would the purpose of that tower be? Just like one room, you know, a few feet off the ground. It's like good job.
It's where someone comes to make proclamations to the town. They just want to be a little bit above.
In the narrow, tiny little alleyways. Before we started, Jess, Sean had said that it looks like when you see a play or a musical and they have the sets, it looked like a Romeo and Juliet, like the balcony.
Yes,
it
did. It looked like cardboard painted.
Somebody made these sets, and I'm not putting that person down or the groups of people that put these sets together, because I cannot imagine how much work that would take. I just think the way that it blended with the CGI, it didn't quite like the depth of it. It's almost like when you're watching a TV show and they're driving and you can clearly tell that they're not driving, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And I saw some people, because, you know, I mentioned I didn't think some of the sets looked as great as I would have liked, which normally I could be more forgiving, until I saw the budget being like $10 million an episode. I'm like, well, and a lot of people were saying like, but they built the sets themselves, and it sounds so mean, but I'm like, well, maybe they should have used places that already exist. And that ties to something with episode 4, where the opening of episode 4, I'm like, this looks great. This looks like, I'm pretty sure this is actually real because it looks different. And sure enough, somebody's like, yeah, that's a castle in, I think, Spain. And I'm like, it looks like a real place, and it looks really good. And I compliment to the nth degree the efforts that went into building. I think that's incredible. But I think that you can kind of tell when it's built versus when it's not. It doesn't like look lived in or worn down. Or
I do want to say, I thought when they go inside, where Perrin and Matt had that heartwarming conversation we talked about earlier, I thought it looked good inside.
Yeah.
I thought when they were running away and like Matt was trying to open the door and there's all that tension, I thought that looked great. I just thought in particular that tower with Brandon and Gwaine looked like it was donated by like the local middle school. That's like the only part that I thought was like not great. I thought the rest of it looked pretty good. Yeah. But that part I was like,
this is a really random thought about that set. Have any of you guys watched Doctor Who, specifically David Tennant era, or is that just me?
Yes.
It reminded me of the library episode, and I think that's part of it, because I love the library episodes, and the black shadows were very much like the shadows in that episode, which obviously also Doctor Who sets are bad. Like everyone.
Well, yes.
Yeah. So I
so you have nostalgia for bad sets.
Expect that.
Well, if Doctor Who ever made good sets, people would riot. Like,
yeah, maybe like this is not. But yeah, I'm just the amount of money. I'm just sorry. No, unacceptable. Not up to my standards. But I was, what are they called? The white
cloaks.
The white cloaks.
Yeah.
What they need to let us know what they're using to keep their white so white, because my goodness.
What? Also, because I'm thinking of the scene that opens in the second one, because I just watched where he has an Aes Sedai, and I thought from the books, I didn't think their rings would be so big. Just like, I mean, they're huge.
It's so that he could dangle them and make a bunch of noise.
Usually. But
also, Stephanie, did you have anything you wanted to say about that city before? Because I remember we were all like talking. I thought I saw you talk before. But...
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think because you don't really visualize when you read, correct?
It's true.
So I think I visualize a lot when I read, so I think my expectations were way higher for that.
Yeah.
Because
it's
I
just
already
one
have
of those
it.
things where like you could think
in my
about like
mind.
early seasons of like Game of Thrones where the sets looked really convincing, or not to bring up Lord of the Rings again, like them walking around like ruins, it really feels like you're in a ruin because for the most part they have actual ruins. Or like Osgiliath, like it was probably mostly a set, but also real ruins. Like that whole place feels huge. So some of it just felt like Shadow Logoth should be this massive place, and like the scale just didn't kind of feel correct for some of it. But then like when they ran and like Egwene and them got to the top of it, like it looked pretty big. And you know, diving into the water, like it was pretty high. So like some of it was good, but then other scenes I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. But,
Just because you mentioned the diving in that moment, I'm like, jump out a little. You guys landed like right next to the wall. You're gonna die. Anyway,
That
that's
made
a
me
not important detail at
so
all.
nervous. It's very every part is important. Important. Okay, when they spend millions, every part is important. Just kidding. I liked the guy they cast for Padan Fane.
Padan Fane.
Sorry if
Oh,
I get
yeah.
his
names
smile
wrong.
is real creepy.
Yeah, especially during the attack, and he's just like, like, just walk back over to my cart.
When he's talking to Matt at the cart and he gives that smile, like he looks like the Joker.
Yeah,
He's got a
it's very
huge grin.
So
Like that's another character who I can take or leave in the book, but I'm so pumped for him to like be doing his thing in the series. I'm real pumped.
Yeah, I think they made them creepier in the show, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
I was
everything's
gonna
kinda creepy in the
say
show.
I didn't love him just chilling during the attack because to me it seems like we're telegraphing a little too much.
That he's not nice.
Yeah.
Well,
I
in the
don't know.
book, it's mentioned really early though in Eye of the World.
Yeah.
That he's not nice.
Yeah, it's like when they get to we skip the village that they first go to. Like after the boat, they're supposed to go to this village and meet Min, and that doesn't happen in the show. I don't even know if Min's cast. I don't even know what's happening.
Cast,
I think she's cast, but she's just not in it yet.
Yeah, but there's the town where they're supposed to meet Min and go to a thing, and that's where they find out that he's like a bad guy. And so I think since you removed that, they had to like they did have to lazily visually tell the audience this guy's not good.
Not good.
I guarantee you most people probably didn't even like notice though.
Yeah.
Probably just,
that's
weird.
They probably were like, "Oh, he's not afraid," or something like that. He's just
Yeah, I wonder
so-
for people who haven't
Maybe
read
he's
the
the
books, like,
dragon.
man, this guy was mean to Matt, wouldn't let his sisters have lamps for this ritual ceremony, and like now it's just eating popcorn, watching the fight. Like,
What do you think of Thom Merrilin? Because we both like him. We think he's different for sure. And we're like, where's his mustaches? But I still I like that
whiskers.
actor. I think that the thing is, even with the characters that are different from how they are in the books, I like so much of how these actors are portraying them, even if it is different, that I think everybody, I'm like, well, I guess he's a rock star. I'm cool with that. And he's like kind of a little gruffer, but we both really like him. I'm curious if all of you do as well.
I'm very average on Tom in both medias. He's good.
I find Tom sus in the book, and he obviously they're trying to make everything darker in the show. I just was like, when we came to that scene, I was like, this is not what we're doing. I don't know, and I don't like hate him, but I'm just like,
I think in Tom's first scene, I was actually more enthralled by the this is an episode 3 spoiler, I guess, for the dark friend, whatever her name was, can't remember it, Dana. I really liked her, and I normally don't care about dark friends in the books because there's like 20 million of them, and you can't keep track, and you just give up.
Good.
But I really liked that. It's like, oh, I really liked how like I didn't see this coming, even though I should have.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt that way too. I'm like, what's up with this girl? Sean thought it was going to be really quick. This is mentioning a concept from the books, the Perrin, I think.
Yep.
Sean thought maybe it was like, oh, everybody's into Rand because of the way she was being, but obviously it's not. Stephanie, did you have something you were going to add with Tom? Because you said something visually, and then
visually, I really like Tom, but I was not impressed with the song. I was expecting more out of that. It was extremely underwhelming.
It's
I
not.
think if you're making your living singing, that's not quite what I expected. It wasn't bad.
He doesn't have to be peppy, but just more like more.
That's not entertainment for me. That'll put me to sleep.
He's not making a lot of money because he's stealing from people too. So
it definitely
That was a
wasn't.
little out of character.
Time is
That was
tough.
a little weird.
That was rude.
It wasn't toss a coin to your Witcher for sure.
Well, no, and I didn't expect that, but I expected it. Like the books just make it seem like it was going to be more than it was in the show.
Although in the books he does sing a lot of ballads. They talk a lot about the different ballads, and it's like I always took it as equivalent of like if you sang the Iliad or something. Like that's what he was doing. Like he was telling these old legendary stories. So I guess vibes why it works, but it's I guess it doesn't translate well.
But even with stories, they have different vibes. So I guess I just didn't expect them all to be so grungy.
At least for the first one.
Yeah. Because he's so, he just plays a big role and then it's like, nah.
Do you think that they wanted to emphasize the actor more than the singer with his casting?
Oh, probably. Yeah.
I think so. I thought maybe they would have emphasized, like they would have been looking for someone who's a great singer who can act as opposed to an actor who can sing, which I think is what they ended up with. I mean, I like him. Mm-hmm. And I guess it defied expectations as far as what you'd expect for what's his Gleeman from Fantasy Story. Yeah. I think there are plenty of like bard style voices, and I think Wheel of Time's like, well, this isn't medieval Europe, so they're trying to emphasize maybe that's just how that guy sings. I don't know, but I like Thom.
I think having a stronger actor is more important for Thom in future books, anyways.
Yeah,
so.
I definitely like the portrayal. I mean, I'm not super tied to like he has to be like he was in the books. I did think it was interesting that they switched up like his introduction instead of being at Emma's Field and fighting in the battle and being like, well, this guy can fight. Where did that come from? But they do that later. So it's kind of like they just took a different route of showing like he actually knows how to fight.
I like how with his coat, it's on the inside instead of the outside.
And I like how like he had this line in episode 4, right, where he's like, why do you think we call ourselves Gleemen? Because everyone would be scared of the people who like know our histories. And it's on the nose, but also Jordan's on the nose. So if the show's not on the nose, we're not being true to Jordan's thematic presence in the books. So it's obnoxious, but it's more obnoxious in the books.
Yes.
Was there anything else regarding episode 3 that you want to chat about before we talk about episode 4?
So, I mean, episode 2 was like all Shadow Logoth. Episode 3, okay, so the Tinkers, or the audience members of Coachella, as I like to call them, they feel a little bit like too hippie-ish almost to me. Like they're super colorful in all their sacks that they're wearing, and their dreads, and like they're like super colorful and like out there. Which I understand they kind of are in the books too, but it's like that's one of the things that when I saw them, I was like, I did not picture them looking like this at all.
Really?
I didn't, but I like it.
They all have dreads. They're all in like really, really colorful, like.
I mean, I imagined the colorful clothing.
Yeah.
Personally, the colorful clothing I think was on point. I guess I didn't imagine the hairstyle, but that's also because I don't imagine hairstyles unless an author's like, listen to me, I'm talking about a braid. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, the dreads was a weird choice, I think. I mean, I love the actress who is I can't think of her name. I love her in everything.
And Outlander and some other things.
And Orphan Black. Oh my god. She's incredible. But yeah, the dreads is a weird thing, but I don't know if I don't know. Like the dancing scene, I was like, oh yes, I remember this from the book, but I don't remember a lot of, besides they were like traveling people, I don't remember a lot of their descriptions. So I just was like, oh.
Yeah, I like their dogs.
Travelers.
Their dogs were so cute.
And their wagons.
Yes. Their wagons and their dogs. I'm like, well, I would join you guys just for the dogs alone. But
I did like the I forget her name, but the story about why they follow the way of the leaf and like her daughter.
Yes.
And how hopefully like the next time the wheel turns her out, like she'll have a better life. And I was like, oh.
I know. I thought that scene, I was like, dang, that's like the most emotional thing we've seen. I was more moved by that than Perrin's wife dying.
Yes.
Because how are you going to be invested with a woman that has 48 seconds of screen time that says nothing and then gets murdered.
She said,
Like,
"I know," and
She
held
was
his
making.
pinky finger.
She wasn't at the party. She was making stuff. She's a workaholic. I know a lot about her.
they
He likes to hold his
put
pinky
her
finger.
there for one reason, and it was to get axed.
That's true.
was it.
And what's I mean, I know we're about to talk about episode 4. What's interesting is like as soon as they introduced her, I'm like, oh no, I know what's going to happen. I don't know how I feel, and I was all set to be angry. And although I'm still never happy
exist
with
in the book.
fridging, like it's lazy. But
Yeah.
sometimes in visual media, I allow laziness because you literally have like this much time to tell something. If it was a book, I'd be way angrier. But like at first, I thought she was just going to die because of a Trolloc, and I was like, oh, so she's just going to kill her in the battle. Having him do it, although lazy, does at least play into Perrin's struggle later on. It's just it. I understand why
I get
people-
it. It feels like a shortcut, and I feel like partially it was for shock value because I mean it definitely worked. A lot of people were talking about it,
I
and
was
my wife
shocked.
was like, "Oh my god!" And
Yeah.
even I was like, "Oh, like."
I was
that's
more
what
shocked that they
happened.
said Perrin's wife especially because of Perrin's arc in the books, which I won't talk about specifically, but like
Yeah.
it's really
I-
jarring if you've read like book 4.
Yeah.
I know this is a not probably great detail to bring up, but girl was puking blood. I mean, so much blood was spurting out of her. And then when he carries her out, she's like pristine. I'm like, I guess he wiped her down. I mean, she still
Yeah.
had blood all over her midsection.
Because I just rewatched it because he had blood on his face too, and he didn't have blood, so he must have wiped his face
I'm
and
taking it
wiped
back.
her face and brought her out, and then for the next.
We'll just chalk that up to like they rushed the last 15 minutes of the episode where they're like, "All right, battle's over. Like, go on and get like get out of here."
And also for past episodes, real quick, I loved when they all sang in episode 2. We talked about
Mhm.
songs, but
Yes.
episode 2's song was my favorite song. I thought that was great. And a great like learning about where they're from, exposition. It was fun.
I didn't.
So
like it.
episode 4, our personal favorite thus far. I thought that
Same.
episode was as close to perfect, I would say, as I could get for what I would want from a Wheel of Time adaptation, with the exception of the very on the nose couple of moments here and there. But otherwise, that episode I thought was great. The Nynaeve moment was so good. I was
That
so
was my favorite. Yes.
loved it. Jess,
I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm trying to remember because I like just watched
When yeah.
Okay, it's 3:15 a.m. I'm trying to refresh my memory of what Nynaeve movement you're talking about.
The end,
The
The
very,
ending?
very end.
exposed
Oh.
magic.
Yeah.
your man Lan
Oh, yeah.
is bleeding out.
Okay, I was
You
so mad. I was like,
saved
hold up, what are we about to do in this show?
I was really stressed because again, even though I know who has to make it, because I've read
Right.
books, I was like,
That
this didn't
seemed
happen though.
obvious.
How do we fix
Yes.
this?
To me, it seemed really obvious because I was like, "Oh, they're just gonna have her save everybody because like everyone just like got their throat slit." And my wife was like, "Oh my god, is
It's
everyone about to
like
die?" And I was just
everyone's
like, "No."
Even though they've been showing more interaction between Nynaeve and Lan, I still feel like it felt soon for her to be like, oh no, to like be so distraught over. I mean, I would be distraught over him laying down there too, girl. I know, but it just wasn't.
then it's
like-
perfectly believable.
you know what? So I take that back. True. But
I'm about to say, Jess, you just meet Lan. What do you do? Like,
Oh my god! It was his birthday. He has a golden retriever, and I'm like, I think your golden would go great with Nigel. Anyway,
I wish
I
Henry
also, in
Cavill
episode
was best friends with us because we both have Akitas. You know, we're like, dude, we could play the Wild Hunt, and our Akitas can be friends. So, anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Well,
So
I was
I'd
just gonna
say
say, like,
for-
I liked the quiet world building of like the warders and the relationships and the
Mhm.
different forms of that. I thought that was done
cute.
in a really good, organic way. At least I was enjoying watching all the interactions around the
There's a
campfire.
lot of great dialogue and
Yeah,
just
I
like
enjoyed
one-on-one
that.
conversations, and it
I
just,
like
it was
the
really well
implied
acted.
trouble. I liked that.
She was like, they don't all, and he's like, mhm, mhm.
But they were like, they don't all, and he was just like, yeah, we do.
Yeah, I like a lot of those, updates are making it more, I don't know, modern and
Yeah.
progressive, if you will. Is fun. That whole, I got confused with the guy they had. What's his name? Logain.
Mhm.
And then I was like, wait, because then I went back to the first episode and I was like, wait, that was a different dude. But I thought I struggle with the magic because I think it's the hand movements. I don't have any problem with how it looks because like when they kept doing that and like when he was breaking out, I thought that all looked really cool. But it's like when they're doing a little hand thing, I guess I get too much focused into all of.
Or like they're
I thought
washing
it was
their
cool
hands.
that Logain uses minimal hands while women use a lot of body movement because the power is supposed to be very distinct between gender.
I think they're also
Don't
just trying
ask
to show
about
how-
transgender. There's no answer for that.
I think they're also
Yeah.
just trying to show how strong he is because they keep saying it. They're like, it doesn't even look like he's doing anything because he's literally just standing there like this with his eyes closed. And they're like struggling, like holding the stuff, like holding it there. And then as soon as they let it slip, he's just like, haha.
I also
So
love how they showed the Taint. The introduction of the Taint was
Yes.
so cool.
Yes.
I
don't think it's called the Taint in the show. I think they're using a different word, but I don't know what it is yet.
Madness or something.
I didn't like the whole, like the warder swings his axe at the one power thing around
That was pretty
Logan
dumb.
because I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. It's not like he's like literally shielded right now. It's not like a force field. So I wasn't a fan of that part, but that's a very specific.
I loved the
complaint.
actor for Logain. I thought he was awesome. I was like when you see the tears in his eyes, I was genuinely sad. And I know it's a little obvious, but the parallels between Thom talking about Owen, I think his nephew's name is, and what happened to him, and obviously it's tying back. So it's very obvious the way it's all tied together. But I still feel like then when Logain is gentled and you see the tears and you're like, oh, but he genuinely thought that he was doing a good thing.
I mean, it definitely feels like they did a lot of that rather quickly, which it did feel kind of sudden to like introduce him in the beginning of the episode and by the end of the episode gentle him. It felt a little sudden, but
he gets even less in the book.
Well, in the book, you see him in like one scene until
in the book,
later.
you see him in one scene. He's already gentled.
Yeah, because Rand like sees him in a cage. I think that's
I actually kind of like that this episode gave me stuff the book didn't. Like we hear about the Southern War. I actually got to see part of him building his army, and like it provided context for the world that always felt so like disconnected for me because I was with the Two Rivers folk and they don't know anything. So
I loved the look of the fight too in the forest. I liked that so much more than the fight at Edmund's Field. I just thought it looked so much better. And even though I know we were joking around, like, would Nynaeve really be that upset? But I liked that you're seeing her looking around and she sees them like genuinely trying. And then I don't know, I kind of get this idea that when she goes to heal all of them, it's not like, oh, I'm in love with Lan and my lover's about to die or something, but more of like she has that protective streak in her. So Alex pointed out earlier, she's like stabbing people and stuff. So she's got
an angry side, which I thought they played up to that really well because that's her whole thing in the book is like when she starts realizing she has power, it's when she's really, really mad. And she just watched a bunch of people basically just get murdered.
It's like the second big battle she's had people.
Yeah, so
and the actor
traumatized and angry.
The actor playing the warder with the axes, I thought that actor did the little bit we get of him. I was like, this actor is great. I was really happy with him.
Was that so that must be in another, so to Angela's point where she doesn't like things that are in trailers that aren't in it, is the scene with him kissing the ring by the fire gonna happen like next episode then, like mourning the loss of his Aes Sedai?
I hope so, but it probably won't.
Because I remember that scene from the trailer. But yeah, I mean,
why
genuinely, I was sad that she died. I was like, man, she was hardly in it, but I liked her a lot.
I know.
Yeah,
I liked their little sword practicing in the morning. I was like, that's right.
Their yoga class that they were having.
Also, I think it's really important that we're seeing a lot of Aes Sedai earlier and getting to know some of these interpersonal relationships because that's not done well in the books at all.
No,
like
they
hearing
make
about
Leandrin
people
a good character.
Like know that they know each other, that there's some distrust, that there's some trust. Like I thought that was done really well. How it's like, oh, you're just trying to get information from me, but I didn't have a dog. Like that was so like, yeah, you were a privileged girl who like snuck in your dog to be at the White Tower, like.
Or like Leandrin talking to Nynaeve about Moraine? It was just like she's a blue, like you can't trust her kind of thing.
When you first meet Leandrin in the book, it's just like 0 to 100. You're like, I don't know what's happening. Who are you? Why are you the way you are? It's very disjointed.
Yeah,
I just really liked that as soon as Leandrin walks away and Lan comes up, she's like, that woman's a snake. Like she just instantly like, I hate her.
So I know we mentioned them briefly just to make a joke about how white their clothes are, but what about the white cloaks?
Okay, help me out here. I did not, we both were like, wait, did he just say what we think he said? We rewound it. So first, Moraine's like, I can't let them know I'm Aes Sedai because they'll burn me alive because that one over there is a weirdo with his little trinkets. So then the guy, when they see the wound, the one guy's like, we don't really like Aes Sedai, but there's probably one in that town over there. Go get healed. And I was like, wait, if you know, then why don't you let your weirdo guy go get it?
That's because, I mean, in the books, the white cloaks can't go everywhere. There are some towns where Aes Sedai are protected and stuff like that. They're not allowed free reign. They think they are, but they're not actually.
He said we try to avoid them, but you're right. I mean, I would get we're not allowed in that town, or like we can't. I would get that. Or if they're like, don't trust Aes Sedai, they kind of suck, but you could get healed by one.
So, and maybe this is where I'm wrong, but I guess I thought the white cloaks more saw Aes Sedai as like evil, like they're like spawn of the dark one. So why would you be like, hey, they can go heal you up real good down there? Like, I
think this is where the show's trying to imply some nuance versus Jordan being like, yeah, these are all zealots and they're saying everyone's bad, where it's like, yeah, these people actively, this is their goal, to get rid of Aes Sedai and everyone that's a dark friend. But like there are some people who are realistic and moderate and like realize, I think that's what the show's trying to show is like there are.
The person that said that in that scene had literally just burned a woman alive at the stake while eating.
No, that was the other guy.
It was the other guy.
Was it?
But they're standing right next to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious like you have one level-headed commander and then one like in kind of more off-kilter.
I mean, that much is realistic though, because in the books there are some white cloaks that genuinely think they are doing good and are like trying to be good people and protect everybody, and then there's like literal bad guys that are white cloaks. So it's like,
it just felt really strange after one showing them burning a lady alive at the beginning, and then that guy shows up again and like he wants to question Moraine, and the other guy's like, all right, go ahead, question that lady. And then as soon as that guy's done, he's like, okay, well, now that the weirdo's done talking, there's probably one over there. And I thought it was a strange.
I think it's a strange choice too for viewers who haven't read the book. I mean, if it is supposed to be like showing such nuance of like what's
the commander,
the different people in that organization, I feel like that scene doesn't clarify that at all. Like I would just be like, what? Like I don't know. I was like that even having read the books. I don't know. I thought it was a little odd.
But the white cloaks, they feel much darker to me in the show than they
feel more outright evil.
Yeah.
Which I mean, granted, they show them burning somebody alive in like the first scene. So as soon as I saw that guy,
what the white cloaks do that are good in the books, though.
They're not good people, but like what? Well, I can't say certain things that. Keep reading. There's things that happen, but like in general, I feel like the introduction to the white cloaks in the books was more of like these people are religious zealots that are kind of crazy, but they didn't feel like they were necessarily like. It felt more like they were mad at like Matt and Rand like being kids out in the city and like trying to be like enforcers almost in the town or whatever that they were in. It's been a while since I've read it. Eye of the World. It was last year, but in the show it seems like straight up they're just like, no, we like this is our land. And we will literally burn you alive
if the burning the lady alive wasn't enough, and if the zooming in and the cup wasn't enough, there's also the fact that he's like, when you eat this, it's gonna make you bleed. So I like it, and I'm like, okay, all the weird things. Just this guy's.
He's a serial killer.
Stephanie, were you gonna add something?
In the books, Alex? I don't even remember him. He's just a new questioner.
I think he's just a TV villain because. I mean, all that was a bit much. It's like, I get it, dude. You're evil. Like, you like to make yourself bleed while you're killing people. Like, okay, bro.
And I guess, and to your point, Sean, I think you're right that it probably won't make complete sense. But also, the white cloaks make even less sense to me in the book. So I was like, okay, this is at least just like two people who are slightly different about their approach to this cause. Versus in the book, like I can't even keep track of who is or isn't a dark friend in the White Cloaks. Like I don't even know what's happening.
That's because the White Cloaks think everyone is a dark friend.
But like then there are dark friend White Cloaks. There's so much.
That's true.
So much. And it's purposefully obfuscated because Jordan thinks that's fun. And some people think that's fun. I don't think that's fun, but some people do.
It's an acquired writing style. And there's also like thousands of named characters, so you're going to get confused.
Well, I loved episode 4. I thought every episode is getting better and better. I feel a little bad. I feel like we really zeroed in on like the little things that annoyed us. But I think after that episode, I have such high hopes for the show. Because I'm worried because I guess we were told today by some commenters that the last episode's title is Eye of the World. And I'm like, because I was trying to avoid like looking too much into the show before watching it. But I'm frustrated now because I'm like, my only worry at this point is that they're going to try to rush certain things. And I don't know. I didn't think that they would be able to do, I feel like, everything that it takes to get to the Eye of the World in the next 4 episodes. But
I think, the qualms
We're
about
about halfway through the book, though.
Yeah, I mean, because episode 1 felt like it rushed through the whole attack pretty quick. I mean, it happens pretty quickly in the book too, but
it's like chapter 2 in the book.
That whole thing and then leaving, and then I feel like they kind of like trimmed down the journey like to Shadow Logoth, so like that happened pretty quick, and then it was over. And then like what was episode 3 even? The Tinkers and the Dark Friend.
And
and it's more Matt and
I feel like they're
Rand
just kind of
fighting
streamlining
worms.
it a little bit and getting it honed in a little bit quicker. So I mean, I think they'll get there fine, but I mean it makes sense, right? They're probably going to do about a book a season, I would guess, is the plan, while mixing in things from later books into each episode or into each season to kind of get things going.
Yeah, doesn't he have it planned for like 8 seasons total if he gets that many? I mean, they're for sure
Probably.
getting 3, but yeah.
what were you going to ask?
Well, I was going to say just positive vibes. I know I make fun of the costume or the special effects and some of the scenes, but I think the actors are all killing it, and I think if they keep getting good scripts to work with, then I think I'll keep watching it. I mean, even if they have to cut a bunch of stuff, I think if they do it well, like I like all the actors.
There's room to cut. I mean, it's 14 books and a lot of like, this lady's neckline is plunging, so she must be bad. We can't trust her. There's a lot of that in the books. And,
yeah, I mean, you're definitely gonna have to streamline for TV anyway, especially if you have limited episodes. But there is a lot of traveling that you could streamline. There are a lot of side characters that don't need to exist to tell the story. So, I mean, cut down on a lot of that. You're gonna cut out a lot of time, like traveling from inn to inn, playing as bards. Like, you're probably gonna cut down on a lot of that, or do like a montage or something. Like, there's ways to seriously trim it down and then focus on the things that need to be focused on.
I mean, they've already separated Matt and Rand from Thom, and Thom hasn't even taught them anything. So, like, that whole arc, it doesn't even happen. Rand will not know how to play a flute. That's not happening.
Apparently, Thom might not even know how to play a flute. We haven't seen him with the flute.
Ooh, but I did like that scene. So Matt, having the whole darkness and like him puking the darkness and it coming back in. And then when he's like standing and I'm like, I don't think he killed this house, but I'm actually not sure right now.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yes, 100% agree.
That brings back that horror thing I was talking about too, though. Like, it's super dark. Like, they walk in and he's just standing there like holding the knife and everyone's dead. And then it just pans to him for like 2 seconds and you see it just like go back into his mouth. And you're just like, what the hell? And he's just like, I see you.
I like how the fade just like peeks its head over.
It was so good. I mean, I don't actually mind the darker tone. And they've really committed to it, I think, for me at least. It's not horror. Like, I'm not like, there's not jump scares. I'm not like freaking out. I'm not behind my blanket, but it's definitely, it's as dark as what people have always told me Wheel of Time is. Like, there are some Wheel of Time YouTubers who are like, it's actually horror. It's so dark. I'm like, are we reading the same book? Because this just feels like an adventure story.
Horror?
Like, there's
I've
definitely
never heard that.
There's definitely moments in the books that are pretty dark, but I mean, it's more of like explained some, certain things that have happened, and you have to assume a lot. It's not like you're not reading a grimdark novel. You're not going into gratuitous detail of like explaining a lot of it. So like you could interpret it that way. And there's definitely some scenes that are like, that's pretty grim, but like, because Robin Hobb does the same thing. Like,
Right.
certain parts of Farseer, it's like, that's really dark, but it's like, I don't know, I don't dislike the tone of the show. It's just, it is quite different than the tone of the books. And I think at this point, 4 episodes in, I overall like it. It's getting better as it goes, and I like it for what it is, knowing that it's not going to be a completely faithful adaptation, because they are certainly taking liberties where they want to, and I'm expecting more things to change, and we'll see.
I mean, it's another turning of the wheel. If there's any franchise that has it built in that you can have the retelling be different,
an excuse, though.
It's in there. It's built in there. It's a different turning of the wheel.
On the note of the darker tone and like the violence, I'm just picturing when eventually Honest Trailers does an Honest Trailer, the amount of like surprise deaths. So like there's Egwene when they're dancing, and then the guy standing there, and she's like, "What is it?" And it's because of Trolloc has, whatever, thrown his axe. And then sorry, our dog is upset about something. And then when the dark friend, like the knife is sticking out of her throat, and then Perrin's wife getting stabbed, I'm just like. Or the part with Logain where they all get their throats slit. I'm just waiting, like 1812 Overture playing while they just show all these people's like throats getting slit and stabbed surprises. But I don't mind the darker tone. I think they wanted to find something in between Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, to use 2 very popular. Like Game of Thrones, they're not obviously that level, but they're not as like family friendly as Lord of the Rings, and like pretty kind of almost like filter looking scenery and stuff. They found, it seems like they're going for an in-between of those 2 as far as the darkness and the tone and whatnot.
That's why it's 16 and up.
That's why Sean always
16 and up.
Yeah. My dad would have shown this to me when I was 10, and I probably would have been terrified, but that's how my dad doesn't look at ratings. He's just like, no, you're fine. Good.
Were there any other last thoughts that we wanted to get into? Poor Jess. It's like 4 a.m. for you.
No, it's 3:30 for.
Oh, whoops! I
feel like I'm the least encouraged, or like least positive, I guess, about this. Like, I don't hate it. I just need to lower my expectations.
The most. Like, why are you spending your time rewatching a thing?
Well, I was rewatching while also like editing videos. I wasn't fully rewatching I recorded a podcast and it finished at 12:30, and I couldn't fall asleep, so I needed something to do in the meantime.
She messaged me to say that she had to make sure her points were on point.
And also Lan and but I just feel like for how much has been talked about for so long, the amount of time and the money, to me, is not adding up yet, but maybe it'll get there.
I mean, also keep in mind, like, yes, a lot of money's been put into it, but like inflation right now and pandemic money right now, like a lot's like, I mean, trying to like buy certain things right now versus a year ago is like $100 more just for like normal stuff for like us normal people. So like building sets, there's like no trees.
I have no sense. No.
I don't know. I mean, I don't really care that much. They're just wasting money. But hopefully their Lord of the Rings show looks better.
Shadow Logoth because of inflation.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think it looks fine. I think for the average individual who does not hyper-analyze their shows, which is me, it looks great.
It looks fine.
I hyper-analyze my shows, and it looks...
I think most of it looks good, but it's definitely up and down. Like, scene to scene, it's not consistently... like cohesive and great in my opinion, but overall I think it's getting better. So I'm confident that like the next few episodes are going to be even better, because it's very clearly this show is getting better every episode, and the pacing makes more sense, and the dialogue I think is a little bit better. Doesn't feel quite as rushed, even though they are going pretty quickly through some of the events, which is why I don't think like ending with the end of book 1 is crazy. But like the thing that sticks out to me the most as far as like CGI is concerned, and I think we talked about it like right before we started, is just when they dream and Fire Eyes is just like, like in episode 4, he was like this close to the camera. That looks awful.
Okay, I didn't like the episode 4 dream sequence, but I liked all of the other ones actually.
What about Rand and his bat? I was like,
oh, that was so strange.
Do we need?
That was So
But again,
odd.
it's like they're doing like a horror thing with a lot of these. Like the dreams are creepy, and I
Well,
mean,
The dreams are
When he was,
creepy
like-
in the book.
When he was coughing up, when I'm like, well, this is clearly a dream. You didn't
Well,
ingest
obviously.
an entire full-grown bat, so when are you gonna wake up? And that was legitimately gross. So good job on their part, I guess. But yeah, that was icky. I didn't like that. And by the way, maybe that's why Rand was such a butthole right after that, because he's like, I just thought I coughed up a bat. So because he's right after that, he's such a jerk. And because he's like, no, you're leaving me for Nynaeve initially, and now you're leaving me for Moraine. It's like, dude, let it go. Okay.
but even at that point, Matt is like, yeah, but like we should probably go because she's kind of saved our lives from like monsters and like can throw fireballs. So I'm gonna follow.
He's
her.
like, yeah, she definitely has her own agenda, and as soon as we don't fit it, who knows what'll happen. But right now, she shoots fireballs. And I'm like,
Yes.
Yeah.
uh,
Well, anything else to add, friends?
I'm
I'm
sure there's
interested for the
lots.
next one, so I want to see my other favorite character.
Yes,
Loial.
Jess keeps waiting for. Although I'm a little
Loial?
nervous. I saw a picture of Loial, and I'm like,
I haven't seen it, so
If
I'm
I mess
nervous,
him
but
up, I'm gonna be so angry.
I love him so much.
Alex, are you looking?
I've seen a casting picture of him. I
Yeah,
haven't
the
seen.
casting I like. I didn't like the picture I saw of him.
Yeah, I think
as-
there's
You like
only
saw
one
him, like how
picture.
he is in the show. Oh
there's
no!
only like one.
Oh no!
Alex.
I'm not gonna
I
look.
All I did was Google Loial Wheel of Time show, and I just see an article says the Wheel of Time showrunner explains the changes to Loial's appearance.
Oh no.
Well, because it's gonna be hard to do the ears and make the
No,
ears
it's
do
not.
the thing.
No,
Prosthetics.
No.
They have
Lord of
They
the
have
Rings
a
did
big
this
enough
shit in
budget for
2000.
that.
But guys, we
Loial
hyper
is a treasure.
Lord of the Rings has great practical effect. Jurassic Park came out in the 90s. Those dinosaurs.
I mean,
look
I
good,
agree that
okay? Don't
CGI
tell
has
me you
somehow
can't
gotten
do
worse
this.
and better.
Yes.
Don't tell me you can't.
Okay, but
I'm
Alex,
so
did you find the picture? I need you to see what he looks like.
I'm trying to find the
Yeah,
picture.
he didn't look
This is
too
an article.
amazing. I don't think it was
But
weird.
he's so great. He's my fave.
He's precious.
Excuse me.
Loial is pretty.
I feel like he would be my bestie. Like he loves to read.
He loves to read and sit and study.
He's adorable.
He
He's like,
loves
no,
books.
I'll stay in here and read. And I'm like, me too.
He's so sweet, and he's like the oldest person, but he's like so young.
He wants to take notes for a book. Oh my god.
He just keeps getting better. In
It's like
Where
the
are
only
the pictures?
repetitive thing I like is whenever he's like, "But it's for the book."
Yes. Or when he's nervous, he's like, no, there might be ogre here from the study. It's like gotta stay inside. I'm like,
Let me see if I can find one, and I'll send it to you.
I just see
Alex.
the casting picture. I don't see.
There was
What
like a
is this?
poster they released with them all at the Waygate, like not the first one, a later one,
Mhm.
like not one showing their backs, showing their faces.
Okay, hold on. I think I found one. I think. Let me send it to you really quick so you
What
can
the
see.
heck? Why
I'm gonna
is
send
so hard
it.
to find
I'll send it in our chat. Okay.
oh no. Am I gonna look? I'll look.
In,
I want to see
Voxer?
your reaction, Jess.
in
I'm
Voxer,
hoping-
right? Okay.
I'm hoping this is just a bad picture.
That's no
Ugh.
way. No way.
No.
Yeah,
That's
it's not.
not
It's
real.
not great.
That's not real.
I refuse.
No.
Okay, well, first of all, that's clearly before it's like actually in a scene in the show. Like you can tell that's not like finished.
I found the
That-
one Angela was
He
talking
looks
about.
like Napoleon Dynamite with a beard.
It looks like a Klingon cosplay
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah,
I
a
just
little
sent it
bit, a
again.
little bit.
with a fro.
Yeah, no, that's the one I saw. The one that she just sent to the
Bro.
chat.
That's horrible.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't look great.
That's why I was like, wait, you have I need
Come
to
on.
be present for when Alex.
It's even worse in the second picture because everyone's standing there and then you just see this doofus with like his side afro
No.
like out to here. He looks all disheveled and like
who is in charge of these decisions?
why is he a red? I'm confused with like
I agree. It's pretty bad. I'm not optimistic, and when I'm not optimistic, because we all know my standards are at the floor.
that's
This is not who what
There's some wonderful art online that they should have
Um,
just gone with. and not that.
Alex,
This is
that
all
article,
about
what was the reason for the
art.
change in the decisions? Like, what was...
Oh, let me have Rafe explain it too. He's probably going to say the exact same thing that he said about everything else. It's a turning of the wheel. Let's see. He did an AMA on Reddit. Let's see.
The audacity. Like, how could...
Jess,
Is
so
there a way
you're
that I
not
could
going
put this on the screen so that people can
to...
see
You can
it?
share screen, yeah.
Well, first of all, this is troubling. He said, the actor's incredible. For his physical appearance, we really tried to find ways to do a nod to what isn't in the books while making him a character that doesn't require VFX for us. So they don't want to spend the budget on actually making him look like Loial.
But they didn't have to make him look that bad.
Yeah, you didn't have to do this.
So he said,
I would
we
rather
just
he
can't,
look like a
can't
person.
afford at our budget level to do a fully VFX core character well. So it would mean that he ends up getting cut from scenes that we don't want to have to spend on him. And I didn't want that, as I love Loial.
Do you?
Loyal's getting the shaft.
Just make him a person then.
I
Just
love
make
him
like
so
a normal
much
looking-
that all we did was give him a big fake nose and an afro. and now he's Loial.
Well,
Or
Elle, do you want to
even a
make sure that
different-
maybe there are
different
links for the
hairstyle,
pictures for
what?
people?
I'll try to find something for if people, yeah.
I'm about to
Oh.
yell at
Because
people.
I mean, isn't there a way to add an image? I don't
You
know.
can
It's
share.
bad.
So at the bottom of your screen, there's a share button. I don't know if I can do it. I can see a share button.
Oh, I see. Okay,
That's
hold
like
on.
a share screen button, yeah.
Hold on.
So you're in charge. So presumably you can.
Yeah. If anybody ends up watching through this, I feel like we're gonna have upset the fans too much at this point. Where they're like, "Let me explain why," and you're like, "Okay, thank you for explaining that. The reason Rand is upset is because Egwene broke up with him. I didn't get that. I really needed that explanation."
When he's sitting on the rock and he's like, when I look up here, I think about my family and my wife and my kids. All right.
What episode was it when somebody, I think Egwene was like, said something about leaving and he's just like, you already did. And
Yeah.
like, what?
That's the part that I was like, no, I don't like this. I don't
He's so
like
an angsty
hashtag
boy.
nice guys finish last vibes for sure.
But I kind of love that though, because in the books, Rand is like terrible with women and doesn't get them at all. And he's super awkward, which like I saw some people complaining about the scene with the dark friend of like him not being awkward enough in that moment. And I kind of thought they might like hook up or something. I was like, oh, she's trying to kill him. That's
Yeah. Well, what's nice also about the show versus the book is we've gone 4 episodes and none of the 3 men have said that the other man is very good with women. So that's a good thing.
Right.
We've
Okay,
knocked out.
I'm trying to. I can't zoom in on this one. I wanted to try.
All you see is his hair.
right click the picture and hit open image.
Whoops, sorry. Well, maybe this will work. Hold on. Wait, I'll just try to do.
You should be able to either just click on it or right click it and then like just open the picture by itself.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you for teaching me how to use computers. Gosh, sorry.
Like
Thanks, everybody.
like if
That's
you look at the pictures
I don't think
around
we
him,
can see it. Do you have to share a different part of it now? Or
Oh, I see. Okay, let me try to do that.
like if you look at artwork for him, it works as like artwork or a cartoon, but like literally trying to make a person look like those drawings like that does, at least the way they're doing it, doesn't look good.
at least I'm emotionally prepared. Like if I didn't know going into the episode, it would probably be worse than being like, okay.
But if I see him show up in the show like in post and like that's what it looks like, I'm gonna laugh out loud. Like it's gonna take me
I
out
mean,
of it.
that's what it looks like.
That's
I know, but so
I
but
can't
this is
accept
a still. I didn't like any of the promotional images of the show at all. I thought it all looked really cheap and bad. And then I was pleasantly surprised when it looked better in the show, which kind of makes sense because a lot of the images just look like someone snapped a picture with a camera, like of the actors, and it's not even like there's no effects or anything on it. So I hope it looks better, but because that's
One
But
can
Here, I
always
found
hope.
the other one. I found
if
the other
Rafe
one.
is saying that they're not willing to spend the VFX money to make him look good.
Then just like Elsa, just make him a person then. Oh, that's so.
Yes.
Pull up Star Trek Klingon from like
Yeah, no, but I mean, I mean, I agree, but I
With
think
a
that Klingon's
bow.
okay for an Ogier. That's fine.
This looks literally like this could have been on an episode of Star Trek Next Generation.
Which
Like,
again plays into my love of camp, so I'll just lean into that
but
when
that's
I
not
watch
what
this
we're going
episode.
for.
Loial deserves more than that.
Yes.
I agree, but we don't get what we want.
Not even
They have
close.
the budget for it.
Wow.
That's so bad.
Maybe when we recast Matt for season 2, they'll find more VFX money, and Loial will suddenly look different.
How much did the show cost? Don't they have money?
Like
I
10
think it was
million
about
an
10 million
episode.
an episode.
$10 million.
Have Marine not spend 3.5 minutes doing a weave, and you could probably make Loial look better.
Exactly. You got to cut
Like-
out some other, or you don't need as many Trollocs, okay? Don't.
I don't quite remember that many Trollocs at the start of Eye of the World. I don't remember that many.
Did too many. Wow.
They were super stealthy too. Like that dude just snuck up out of nowhere, and then they turned around and the entire village was on fire. I was like, damn, that was quick.
Oh
Just
my
one, like
word.
they were spinning twice, and then they turned around. One guy was stabbed to the chest, and then the village was on fire. It was pretty intense.
I do love a line dance. I did like that part until poor boy caught
I
that in
did.
the chest.
I did also like that it really did show, because like you don't really see that till later on in the book. So the Two Rivers folks, they don't have experience fighting, but they are fighters. Like
Yeah.
you know,
I love
like,
the
they're
women. They were
scrappy.
like, come on.
Yes.
That is in the books. So
They all had pitchforks. They literally all had torch and pitchforks, and we're just like,
Like we've been drinking all day. Come at us.
Great.
Wow.
It'd be
Loial.
better if Perrin had to choose between like the pitchfork and the axe. Like, one's a tool. The pitchfork is a tool. It's fine.
Sean, don't you remember Shadow Rising? All of the visions that Min has about a hammer and an axe. And...
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
Okay, so it's,
Yeah.
as long as it's between both the book and the show's just doing what it can.
Well, friends, this was fun. I was so excited to show you all Loial. I'm so glad that I got to be the one to share that with all of you. I hope that it doesn't look like that. Like I'm with Alex. I'm hoping it's just early. Some picture got
Yes.
leaked or something. But if it's not, I hope that the actor is amazing.
Maybe he'll have
So-
like the best voice and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just look up Worf from Next Generation or any other
that's what he looks
Klingon.
like.
He looks
Like-
like a Klingon mixed with Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like.
Like he could be on the cast.
After hearing
Next
the
Generation.
Loial voice that Michael Kramer does, I have a certain voice in my head. So it'll be interesting to see what he does.
I feel like the actor is, because he looks like a pretty big guy. Like he could probably pull the voice off fine.
Yeah, I think so. I'm excited for the actor at the very least. And I'm excited to see, maybe he'll be so endearing that like his kind of derpy hair will be part of the love and
Like,
charm.
they could have at least made it brown. Like, why is it blonde?
It's an interesting color. It's kind of a strawberry blonde.
What's funny is there was a room of people who had to okay this. Like there's a whole room of people who like they saw this and were like, yes.
That looks great. Aces.
It's exactly how I pictured Loial for sure.
God.
This was fun. I'm excited for when we come back together after the show is complete. We can chat again. Hopefully Jade can join us.
Yeah.
Jade is so sweet that I feel like if she were here, she'd be like, I liked it. She would probably like over everything we say because she's so sweet and so nice. And she's like Angela, where she doesn't visualize things. For those that don't know Jade,
Yeah.
that's another thing for her too. So,
It's really
and
great.
she's so excited to have the show have, like a lot of us, to have an adaptation. If you are somebody who has been hurt by the things we have said, we apologize. We're just
Send all hate mail to Elliot Brooks.
thank you for that.
You may be entitled to
I have a whole Wheel of Time video that you can go into that comment section. That's the specific place where you can bash me. That's the specific area.
We'll have everybody's channels linked so you can go hate on us individually. So this was super fun. And we can't wait to see more. As silly as we were being, we are generally, I would say, enjoying the show and excited to see what comes next. So thanks for watching. If you made it an hour and about 40 minutes in with us, let us know your thoughts on Napoleon Dynamite, Star Trek Loial, and we'll see everybody later. Bye.
Guys.
Bye.